maybe the city attorney can respond to it, is I'm an owner of property, and I put my property with a rental agency, and I have a liquor cabinet that I lock full of liquor. What happens if the rentee breaks into that cabinet and uses my liquor for a party?
They're thieves.
I think you have more than one problem there.
Yeah, exactly. I guess it's not going to come back to the owner, you know, in that kind of an instance, is it?
I don't believe so. If you look at section 9.37.030 on page 5 of your revised ordinance, right in the middle of the first paragraph, it talks about reasonable steps that a host should be held to take. And one of them is to control access to alcoholic beverages. And if they are under lock and key, I don't believe it's reasonable to expect anything more than that. So I think, therefore, the host would not be liable based on that standard alone. There may be other standards that the host failed to live up to,
right.
But on that one, I think the host would be okay.
Okay, so, you know, it is an education process, obviously, with our rental agencies and the owners of property that are renting.
I agree with Dave. I think that the city should prepare some kind of a handout that the rental agencies can give to the folks as they sign their rental agreements. They're just a very clear summary of, you know, we don't have to get into a lot of minutiae of an ordinance, but just a very clear summary of what's expected.
Sure, be glad to do that.
Mrs. Harrison, do you have any questions?
Well, I'm really pleased that this is going forward. I'm not as bothered as you are with the language, because I think when you take all three of these things together, it covers the situation. But I'm certainly cooperative in agreeing to whatever modifications makes everyone feel comfortable. I'm pleased particularly that it is going to be in place before our events at the end of the year. I think it's important. And, you know, we all agree that safety is our #1 job, I think, and this certainly takes it a step forward, and I'm very pleased.
I did have a question on the timeline for the city attorney's office. If we modify #1 under social host, is that significant to the content where we have to come back next council meeting for our first reading should the council decide to go that direction?
Well, I've read the proposed revision into the record, so that would be deemed to be part of the ordinance that by motion you could waive further reading of and introduce. So for that reason, tonight you may proceed to introduce it. We'll bring it back at the next meeting for second reading and adoption.
Thank you.
Okay, there's not any other questions? Yes, Rick?
Just one quick one. And this was my concern last time, Steve. So we're basically the same type of issue, that control of liquor in your house. And the concern that I had was are you going to have to secure all your liquor in your house to not run afoul of this? Again, if you've got kids in the house and you've got, let's go as far as buying a refrigerator, and that's not secured. And does all the liquor need to be locked up because of that verbiage? And I had a concern previously, a little bit less of a concern, that CDR Pro had less of a concern now, but still it pops up as an issue. And I want to make sure we're not writing something in that somebody has to go out and have lockable cabinets just because there's a chance that you have kids in the house.
Well, two comments. One is we're talking about a gathering, and that's defined. So it's not simply having liquor in the house without an event taking place. Having liquor in the house without an event taking place is not a violation of the ordinance and would not lead to one. Secondly, I think any prosecutor would tell you that the rule of reason would apply, and I expect the sheriff would be instructed by the district attorney that based on the rule of reason, the sheriff should exercise reasonable discretion in enforcement of the ordinance. So the mere presence of liquor at a residence will not be sufficient to cause a violation by a host, even where there's a gathering. If the liquor is under lock and key or other precautions are taken to prevent a violation of the ordinance, then the host is okay. But it's only where, based on the circumstances, the sheriff reasonably concludes that the host is not reasonably protecting the liquor from the minors or vice versa, only then will the sheriff surely cite any party for violation of the ordinance.
So anyways, that's inside.
Appreciate the
Too bad
clarification.
Captain Bradford's not here.
Well, that's a different ordinance. That's,
We don't have to worry about that one. I like the idea of the scroll, just as much information as you can possibly put up there. It's buried, 97 is buried fairly deeply into the charter lineup, and so it takes a little bit of time to find it. So if you make it as interesting as possible, you have a better chance of catching people from time to time who'll find something fascinating on there. And I know that Tom's been working at production for the Tour of California, and so all those sort of things that you can put on, as long as it's, I'll call it higher quality. And I love the stuff that some of the kids do, but you know, you got to think that you're trying to build a following, not have something on there that maybe will turn people off, and they'll you know, might not want to go there again. You want to have it on one of their favorites, and by having the best quality on there possible, I think you could achieve that.
you want them to TiVo us.
TiVo, exactly. We're just on their favorites, their little favorite ones. So.
Yeah, Charter had originally put us in 97 because that's where their other public affairs and government programming is, and of course we're close to one of the CNN channels too. It makes sense it's in there, but I agree with you, we need to be able to stand out once you go closer to the
Some of the
100
state ones, I don't know if you've watched them, but I've tried, and a little verbose out in Sacramento.
Do we have any, as far as our agreement with Charter on the PIG channel, are there any restrictions from expanding the broadcasting?
The only restrictions that we have on the PEG channel, which probably makes us the primary difference between us and a private operator, are that we are limited with any kind of direct sale advertising. So I'll give you a good example. You have somebody who owns a kayak shop. You can't do an advertisement at the end of a program that says, "I'm Tom, come down to Tom's Kayak Shop. We have a great sale going on Friday, 50% off all kayaks." However, you could do a show where Tom of Tom's Kayak Shop, you know, this show was brought to you by Tom's Kayak Shop located at the corner of blank. You just can't do any spot-on marketing.
Do they pay a
direct
fee?
sale.
Would they pay a fee for that?
A far reduced fee compared to having a full commercial.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? This is there isn't, this is not an action item, so did you get the type of?
Yeah.
Very good.
We'll be back to the variety of creative ideas, but I think we need to outreach with our partners in the valley and be able to ascertain what their interest is. We need to take a look at it from a technical perspective and produce content in contrast to visiting and doing clips and streaming from outside. So we'd like to look at all that, but what we want to do is get to you as soon as we learn about this. This was our first council meeting after the final decision.
Very good. We'll move on to committee board reports. San Bernardino Association of Government sandbags. I attended meeting in March, and then last Friday, the Major IDEV Mountain Committee met, and we met down at the brand new Victor Valley Transit Authority building. It's about 20,000 plus square feet. They've got just the administration building, and then behind that is their shop where they work on the buses and that. And I can tell you, as a former board member, it was a MARTA board member, it was something to see. They've got in their personnel room, or dispatch room, I guess it is, they have these, you guys, YouTube probably know better than ever, they have these smart boards. And you can look up on the smart board and you can see where every bus is, and you know how fast it's going, and if it's stuck or whatever. I mean, it was just amazing to see that kind of stuff. And of course, it was a $35 million building too, so which is a little out of Martin's range, I think. It was really something to see, and you guys should. They'll give you a tour. The board members should go down there and take a look at it. It's really something to see.
So we can be jealous.
That's right. Yeah, that's what I told him.
Wishful.
That's what I told him. He said, I don't know where to put my feet. Barwa, Mr. Rick and Liz, who wants to give a report?
Well, I was at the last meeting. this?
Well, it was, and I was, it was a routine meeting. There really wasn't anything unusual. We approved budgets, which was the main item on the agenda. Is there anything else to add about the river?
Well, we have a meeting coming up on Wednesday, and I'll be in Sacramento, so we'll be doing it via phone and posting the meeting agenda on the door of the hotel room in case anybody walking down the hall is interested. I guess you have to leave the door open, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's my assignment for Wednesday.
All right, City County Conference, which was held on March 29th and 30th. We had myself, Mayor Pro Tem Olanolte, and Councilman Carrillo there, and I thought it was a great conference. They did a great presentation and kind of a workshop on the county vision project, which I thought was very interesting. This is about the fifth or sixth time I've seen the vision project, but there was some new input because it did open it up to the audience, and I thought it was pretty interesting. I don't know if you want to comment on that, Dave?
Just, you know, I think our presentation from the city of Bear Lake was very well received. It's certainly a very professional presentation. And during that discussion on the County Vision Project, it was interesting to hear how important tourism is in this county and what an important place the mountaintop has in the whole economics of the counties. And so I think we need to keep pushing that and pushing the county to push that too.
As a mayor, I was afforded the opportunity to do the to show the city-county video on Dave's side. I mean, everybody was just nuts about it. Very, very professional. Jay, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I was most impressed with, in this time of financial austerity, you would expect that everyone would just be hunkered down, concentrating on day-to-day operations. And it was really refreshing to see how many people in the county and the other city governments are focused on what comes next for us in the next year, in the next decade, in the next century. It was really comforting and stimulating, I think, to see that.
All right, Mark, Dave or Jay, who wants to?
I think I'm going to give the report. There was a fairly routine meeting. Two things. We did approve some form of share the road signs that have been pushed by the Cycling Association, and you'll see those eventually on the backs of the MARTA buses. The sample that they had was very, very large, and we're going to work towards something a little bit smaller, but I think that's a program you're going to see on public vehicles around the valley for share the road with bicyclists. The other thing is our Crestline office facility refurbishment is going to be done in May. It won't be a 34 million, what was that figure, 34 million facility, but we're, I think, happy to be able to get back into the MARTA facility, and it's going to be ADA compliant finally, and there are a number of improvements that have been done to the facility, so that will be completed in May. I also wanted to mention that I attended the Solid Waste Advisory Task Force. It didn't get on our list here, but last week was held in Highland, and it was a routine meeting, and interestingly enough, out of about an hour and a half, they spent most of an hour trying to decide whether to eliminate all of our committees and to go to a once in 5-year meeting schedule. And that's because the task force was created to review the AB 939 5-year implementation plans, and the only requirement is to meet once in 5 years. So we've done that, and we're in good shape, and so the discussion was, well, do we really need to exist? Do we really need to meet on a continuing basis? And the discussion was postponed so that one of the technical committees could meet to discuss whether there's a real purpose for that task force to meet. The county was there, represented by Jerry Newcomb from the Public Works Department, and they did discuss the waste disposal agreements, which are set to expire, and the county has proposed to extend them for 5 years, and it looks like the city managers group has actually suggested a shorter time period because the situation is changing with the solid waste system so much. And Jerry also indicated that the solid waste system in the county is approaching insolvency under the current conditions, because as a result of the downturn in the economy, the waste stream has been reduced something like 32 to 35% the last several years. So they're lacking